there. During this virtual day, we are going to go over a mandala. Throughout the course today, we are going to show you the steps in writing a mandala in your classroom and give manipulatives to the students in the classroom as we go. All the manipulatives that you see today will be given to you at our next class. The first thing that we would do with a mandala is explain to the students what it is. So that's what you see in front of you right now.
Okay, and if you notice, we have highlighted what a mandala actually is, the simple definition. I have done this particular assignment, given out this particular page with the students, and I do give them a little bit of background information. I went to the internet and found some of the not original Tibetan mandalas, but examples of what they might look like today. The kids are kind of interested in that, but they really want to know basically what is it. So we have it highlighted here for you in case you want to just get right to the crux of it. So this one also shows you a bit of an example of an artistic mandala, somebody who's really into art. Notice that there are some websites that you can go to for further information.
Also, notice that it's in the shape of a circle. It's very important that when we do our mandalas, we stick with that shape. It is the symbol of life and wholeness of a person, which you will see later on in the presentation.
We have also numbered the paragraphs here just as an added bonus for you to see how you number paragraphs.
Once you've given the what is a mandala reading for a quick read for the students, you would then go into a Symbols of My Life handout, which is an organizer. This is to start generating ideas about things that are important to students, symbols that can represent those things, and what those symbols exactly mean. Because as you saw in the previous reading, the example at the bottom shows many visuals that are relative to this particular student's person or who they are. In the organizer, a student would be expected to go through and list some things that are important to him or her. Then they would write out things that represent those things that are important to them. For example, feeling safe, they may have a dove by their side. Or family, they may represent family by using a heart. And then what those symbols actually mean. A dove is peace in the world, and a heart means love. So having them describe these things through the organizer. For your students that really struggle with writing, they could draw pictures in the organizer.
That is what my students did, and they found that a lot easier than actually writing it out.
For students that are your advanced students in your class, you could pick particular vocabulary words that they have to put into their organizer. Or you could take the Symbols of My Life and turn it into something for a character. But like we always say, we're just showing you the introductory activity so you can do this many more times in your classroom.
This is something, keep in mind, that you can do with many different activities. I did do a mandala one year with different literary elements from a poem. The students had to go in and find 4 literary elements, and then they divided up their mandala that way. So once they get the idea of the mandala, then you can use it for other things. Here are some sample mandalas. Sorry that some of them are cut off, but here are some samples of students either making the mandala themselves or their final product. If you notice, the top 2 mandalas are pretty elaborate. The first one is about American Girl in the USA. So it could either be more of a social studies related thing, or it could be relative to that student themselves. Then you have this picture down here where you see an actual student drawing a mandala, several students painting mandalas, and down here you see a very unique mandala that shows a lot of differences in this person, with having maybe a Canadian background, liking Nikes, superheroes, the things most important in the middle, and then some things on the outside. And then the top. The top is one of my students this year. He's quite an artist, and he loves to draw. If he could, he would draw every single assignment instead of write. However, I chose this one because you can see what is important to him. The most important thing is family, and he put them enclosed in a diamond. And then obviously he's very into art, and he had, explanations for what each of these things represented for him. You can see the money sign, that's pretty obvious.
So for example, if the student that made this mandala on the top right corner were to complete this organizer, it would look a little something like this. Things important to him may be money. A symbol representing it, if he is a lower functioning student, he may just do a money sign. And what that symbol means is becoming rich. Or maybe even security in his family. Like I said, please excuse the writing. This is something new for us. So he would ideally complete the organizer with money being important to him, a symbol that represents it and what the symbol really means, and eventually transfer it over to his example at the top, where you see money. After students complete their visual mandala, then we ask that they would move on to the autobiographical writing portion of the mandala. This in front of you is just the assignment description that you would hand to your students. You would choose who you think you're writing to. Are you writing to an Avid classmate or someone in your family or your teacher or your school? That tells you who the audience is.
And most of my kids wrote to their teacher, of course. And then it's really important to go over with them the purpose, the format that this is going to take, which is an essay, and then the essay length. They will balk at 2 to 3 pages, but I think once they start writing and then start typing it, they're going to realize that they have a lot more to say than they think they do. Most all of my students came up with at least 2 pages typed, double-spaced. You can give them the due date. That's always pretty helpful. If they will do their homework, sometimes they need to go home and finish it. If not, I kind of leave it lax for us because we have a lot of absences. However, I am not opposed to a due date.
Also, with the length, that can be easily modified according to needs of the students in the classroom. If 2 to 3 pages is way too many pages for some of your students, you can shorten it, or you can make it longer. Like I always say, you can bump it down or make it a little bit more remedial if you add visuals or maybe some cloze activities where they fill in the blank, or you can bump it up or make it more rigorous by making sure that they include specific vocabulary. Maybe even the vocabulary that we were discussing previously for the organizer.
You will see as we go through here that there are some example essays, and what I did was, and you will get a copy of these manipulatives, I gave 4 different copies to the students for them to see how the sample students started out with their introductions. That gave my kids a wide range of comfort level for them to choose how they wanted to create their own. Some of them were so shaky that they just wanted to use the same introduction verbatim and change it up to make it work for them. Others kind of said, oh, okay, this one here is talking about 3 different things he's going to talk about in the essay, so that's going to go in my introduction. But you'll see that on the manipulatives.
Again, I apologize that it is cut off. As you know, this is new for us, but you will receive this handout at our next class. The mandala, fortunately, comes with a rubric. The rubric is very wordy. For those of you that don't know, you will soon find out that wordy, to me, is not good for all kids. So we would ideally change this up to make it a little bit more
Kid-friendly.
Kid-friendly, for sure. Maybe some pictures, some sad faces, happy faces, things of that nature. But for us as teachers, this gives us an idea on what a very effective versus ineffective mandala autobiography looks like.
Here we go with the sample, and I always point out to the kids because when they hear 2 to 3 pages, woo, they freak out. So look at this introduction. All right, so I tell them, what do you notice about the introduction? And then they read it and they tell me, well, they describe themselves. Right, exactly. You could start out that same way. And that gives them one example of how they can start.
They also provide the visual mandala that goes along with the writing. So for students that struggle with the writing, they can pick it out piece by piece. So looking at the first symbol, it could potentially be a heart. They could write a sentence that says, I am a loving person, or athletic, friendly, and loving. So that goes with the heart. The center, I happen to read ahead, and this is a student that loves the Chargers. So if you read further below, he describes the Chargers in his writing as well. So that's why that's the center of his. Because like I said before, typically the center is the most important part of your life or your autobiography. Here's another sample.
This one starts out with a nice little quote that the student's mother talks about or always says. Another really cute way to start.
So again, this is, like Julie said, 2 different ways to teach students how to start. You can start with picking a symbol in the mandala itself and start with that, or you could start with something like a direct quote for maybe your more advanced students. So we've showed you everything that we needed to show you about a mandala. Now we would like for you to try one of your own. So we would ask that before our next class, this is different, so listen up, that you complete your own Symbols of My Life organizer. You can fold a piece of paper into thirds, making a brochure style, and complete your own organizer. Once you've completed the organizer, you may move to your own sample mandala. The most important thing that I learned from Julie throughout this process is that the easiest way to do this in your classroom is use a paper plate. It's already in the shape of a circle, so you don't have to do any cutting or any tracing, or for your students that are very particular or your students that are perfectionists, you already have a perfect circle. So go ahead and complete an organizer and your very own mandala, but do not, please do not go ahead and do any writing. We don't want you to go that far into it because that's a lot of work for you. Please plan on the next class to bring your sample mandala to share with the class and any other questions that you may have.
Thanks a lot, guys. We will see you on Tuesday, March 10th from 4:30 to 7:30 at Phoenix. And if you need to get hold of us to find out how to get there, we're more than happy to let you know. But we are right behind the Naval Stadium in Annapolis.
If you need us, feel free to email us, but please don't make fun of us because of this virtual class.
Because we're making fun of ourselves enough.
Thank you.
Bye.